Should we be taking self-responsibility for all our actions and words that are spoken? Do you think taking responsibility for yourself and owning when you've made a mistake enhances relationships? This is what I want to talk about today. Now, I recently had a session with a client in my private practice, and they talked through a scenario that highlights the importance of owning mistakes in our relationships with others. Now, let's call her Maureen, for privacy, of course, describing meeting up with a friend. And this was Amy, a friend she has had for many years. She's a good friend. Amy let Maureen know she was disappointed in her, as she had been informed that Maureen had told another friend in their circle of friends private information about her recent divorce. Maureen stated when Amy first expressed this to her, she immediately thought, that wasn't private information. Amy should have told me that she didn't want that information being told to anyone. Geez, like she's being sort of hypersensitive. Maureen stated she curtly responded to Amy, "It's a shame you feel this way. I didn't mean to be hurtful. I don't think I said anything private anyway. You should have told me you didn't want it repeated to anyone." And Maureen stated, "It made me annoyed at the time." But later, when Maureen went home and thought more about the discussion with Amy, she kind of realized that it was true. And if the shoe were on the other foot, she would have been very upset about this too. She also recalled previous situations in which people had been upset with her for divulging private information about them. She said, "It all started to hit me at this point, and I realized that I just justified what I did rather than taking responsibility for it. And I tried to put the blame back on Amy." The point that I'm trying to make here is that we all like to be right, and it's uncomfortable taking the blame and, hearing criticism about ourselves. But we do need to hear what others are saying to us in a relationship if we want our relationships to grow and to flourish and be maintained. If we know deep inside that we made a mistake, we need to take ownership of it and, if necessary, apologize. This aversion to admitting when we slip up and take responsibility can be linked to preserving our ego. The ego is that relentless inner voice that never lets us sit in the knowledge that we are good enough. This inner voice drives us to deny our flaws and our mistakes. But the key here is that standing up and taking responsibility for our actions, right or wrong, can create powerful healing in ourselves, as well as others around us. And let's face it, we all have disagreements in relationships. And more often than not, we do resolve them one way or another. But when a relationship cannot be repaired after a dispute, it often comes down to one person refusing to reflect on their behavior and admit any mistakes or responsibility. Now, maybe you have come across a person like this in your life. I certainly have, many a time. The people that are always right, no matter what. Those that will blame others for all their wrongdoings will not listen to any criticism about their actions or behaviors. Now, they're difficult people, right? Taking responsibility for our actions is an essential part of any healthy relationship, no matter what kind of relationship it is. It creates trust and enables the relationship to deepen. It communicates to the other person that you're willing to be honest and also somewhat vulnerable, encouraging them to do the same with you. Now, another example that comes to mind is a young man I saw in private practice that spoke of being too dependent on his partner. When I first began seeing him in therapy, he described being very reliant on her, that is, his partner. And it was all about the affection towards him, to show me that she cares. And what he said was that, "I like doing most things with her, but she likes to do some things by herself or with her friends." He stated he realized after some time that it's my low confidence in myself that leads me to cling to her too much. He said often it leads to them fighting, and I would blame her for not wanting to be with me as much as I wanted to be with her, and that she doesn't love me enough. The long story short, over many months we worked through this difficulty, and he arrived at a conclusion. I need to talk to her honestly and let her know it's about my confidence in myself and not how much she loves me. He stated that once he understood why he was acting in a particular way, she was less irritated by it, and he was able to work on changing his reactions and behaviors in the relationship for the better, to give her space to be by herself and with her friends and family when she wanted to do it independently. He stated the arguments decreased and the relationship became more robust over time. Conflict in relationship will always occur. It can be healthy, but it doesn't have to be destructive conflict. Through open and honest discussion and taking self-responsibility for your part of the conflict, it allows you to become more aware of what triggers you and the other person to feel certain emotions that can snowball into defensive and angry behavior. Now, sometimes, particularly in romantic relationships, you can get caught in repetitive loops of responding in a particular way, often blaming the other, rather than examining what is happening at that moment and also your part that you're playing. So instead of moving in the direction of finishing, I'd like to leave you with this quote to ponder. Take accountability. Blame in the water in which many dreams and relationships drown. And this is by a gentleman by the name of Steve Maraboli. So what I'm trying to get at is that when you discover the underlying cause of why you and your behavior impacts others, you are halfway to rectifying it. We all resist criticism from others, helpful or unhelpful. It's never pleasant, right? Many, if not most of us, become defensive when we feel threatened by someone else. But can you create some space from what is being said? Step back and view your behavior from their perspective. Can you see your behavior may be difficult or even annoying? The bottom line to all of this is that most arguments or disagreements can be remedied or fixed when both people can self-reflect and own their contribution to it. Take responsibility for their part in it. It can take some work and some time to arrive at that point, but it is seriously worth putting in the effort, and you will continue to slip up and become defensive or blaming, as that's what we humans do. But the sooner you can catch it, become aware of what you're doing, that you're being defensive or you're blaming the other person, rather than looking at your part to play, you're then on your journey to developing stronger relationships and greater self-awareness. But at least with people who dare to be wrong, there's something out in the open that can be made better with discussion, compromise, and maybe a little laughter. Now, thanks very much for watching this, and I do trust this has been useful in terms of self-reflecting, taking responsibility, and reducing unnecessary conflict such that it doesn't have to involve destructive conflict. Thanks again for watching. Take care. Bye for now.